Hi there, welcome to Floating in Books. Today we're going to be doing my end of year favorites, and I'm not just going to be talking about books, but all of the media I consumed in the past year, and I'm going to tell you about all of my favorite albums, my favorite TV series, my favorite books, and there's one movie, because I'm just not much of a movie buff. So let me just get organized, because I have some of these notes on my phone, because for the movies and the TV series, I don't have anything to show you, of course, because I just streamed it all. So movie, let me start there because there's only one thing there. I did watch movies, don't get me wrong. I did. But just nothing really stood out to me. Like I had a gander through my Netflix and my HBO and like any streaming services I've used in the past year to see what I have been watching. And I was like, as I was scrolling through, just some of it was just not that memorable or... Yeah, so there was just only one movie really that stood out to me this year, and that's also the only one I saw in cinemas, and that was The Batman with Robert Pattinson. Directed by Matt Reeves. That was a movie I was very excited for ever since I discovered that that was gonna happen. Like, we all know a little bit, if you've been with me for a while, that I have a bit of a Robert Pattinson fan sort of history, as in when he started doing Twilight, I was like, oh, that guy's pretty interesting. So I just started following his career to see what he was doing, and every once in a while I would like look up what he's up to, and then I was like, oh, he's doing this. And this time I was like, oh, he's gonna be Batman? I'm like, I want to see this. So I made a point of seeing this in cinemas because I don't go to the cinema all that often, even though by the time you're watching this, I will have been to the cinema again because I'm going to go see the new Avatar movie. So yeah, I'm not much of a movie buff, which is why I'm just not that invested with movies at all. But yeah, this was one I really wanted to see, and I'm glad that, you know, it was on HBO like straight away as well, so I can now watch it all the time, and I thought it was a really good movie. I like that dark, gloomy atmosphere. I love the Catwoman, Batman sort of will they, won't they kind of sort of banter going on. I thought all the acting in it was actually quite excellent. Like, I'm really looking forward. Is that Penguin spinoff still going to happen? I want that to happen because I would watch that for sure. So yeah, I am invested in that. So I hope that there's going to be like 2 more movies in that. So looking forward to it. Then I wanted to chat to you about music as well. So some of the best albums I found this year. Again, because of this thing, like not being able to go to a lot of concerts in the past couple of years, I just feel very behind on music releases, and I just now sort of like have to figure it out a little bit by myself. But the discovery of the year for me was this. This is Working Men's Club. And Working Men's Club is a group from Manchester. Was that what they were from? Oh, I read up on this months ago. This is their second album, I believe. It's called Fear Fear. And I just saw this at my record store as I was picking up something else, and I was like, that looks like it could be like some 80s sort of thing. Like, is this an 80s band I've never heard of before, or what's going on here? Turns out they're just brand new, and they are definitely fusing a lot of 80s electronica into their music. It has this very art housey kind of feel to it. I love this thing. Like, this is one of my favorite albums of the year. I listened to it nonstop the minute I bought it, and I actually was swayed in the end to purchase it because I had just seen it and I had never heard of it. And then a week later, they reviewed this album in my local newspaper, and I was like, okay, I need to try this. And I loved it. So, loving Working Men's Club, a great new find. So in terms of music discovery, not a lot of interesting things really happened because everything else was albums by artists I already knew and that I love. So, I mean, who didn't listen to this year? Beyoncé Renaissance. Of course. Of course. I mean, if Beyoncé puts out a banger of a danceable album, then I need to try it. Like, everything just works in this. Sure, there are a couple of songs on here that I don't love. I'm terrible at telling you what my favorite songs are, by the way, because I just sort of listen to them on shuffle on Spotify. So I never know. Woo, things are falling. I never know what things are called. But yeah, I do really love this. Every single time I play this, I just wanted to get up and dance. Dance fever Florence and the Machine. I've been listening to Florence and the Machine since before they ever even had an album out. So I've been following her career for a long time. I saw her live way back in the day when she was still like playing very small gigs. By now I probably wouldn't go see her anymore because it's just a bit too massive for me. But yeah, Dance Fever, I was like, yeah, I liked her previous albums. I'll probably like this too. So when I knew she was coming out with new music, I just had to try it. And this is very Florence, but a little bit more danceable. It's like everybody wanted to get us up and dancing again, you know? I just, a break free and be happy sort of vibes. And this album is definitely part of that too. Another long-standing favorite in my music collection is Interpol. Again, I've been loving them since their first album as well, which I bought when I first started living on my own, so I've been listening to them for 20 years. I did see them live years ago, and this is their latest album. It's called The Other Side of Make-Believe, which I had completely not even registered. Like, Interpol is one of those bands where I just listen to it, and everything always sounds good. They again have this like more morose, like 80s depressed kind of vibe in a lot of their songs. But yeah, I just really like it. Again, I've been loving them since their first album. I think there's only one album by them that I don't have. I mean, every single time it's just good. It's just, I don't know. I just really love Interpol. What can I say? I'm very bad at describing music that I've loved for such a long time because it all just starts to blend together and everything starts to sound a little bit the same. But it's just a sound I really like and dig. So if you've never tried Interpol before, maybe you can. And finally, The Smile. And before you think, but Micah, The Smile is new. Yeah, but the people in The Smile aren't new because this is a Radiohead spin-off. It's Tom York and Johnny Greenwood from Radiohead, who are like the two main players in this thing, and they just got another drummer in. What's his name again? He's a jazz drummer. Tom something something. Does it say? It doesn't. Anywho, I went to see them live in May. It was my first concert after the whole thing that I was able to go see again, and it was magnificent. And at the time, the album wasn't out yet because it came out in June. But this, if you're into rhythms, like different rhythms and things, this is lovely. The new drummer is definitely adding something there. And because they are now a trio, Tom York also has to do some like more actual guitar playing than when they play with Radiohead, so you get to see more of him as a musician as well. And I just really like this. It's not the happiest kind of music, I do have to admit, but it's rhythmically very interesting. And here I'm gonna have to put some pictures up on the screen because I wanted to share with you some TV series that I watched this year that I greatly enjoyed. One thing isn't new, it wasn't even new to me, but I watched all 6 seasons again of Downton Abbey, and they now have the movie on Netflix. I'm like, oh, I love myself a bit of Downton. I just really was into very slow TV for a good chunk of the year because I wasn't feeling the best, so I couldn't handle anything that was like too exciting. And Downton Abbey is anything but exciting. It's just a lot of gossip, a lot of chatter. There's all these nice, soft, pretty colors everywhere, and it was exactly the slow TV I needed to feel better again. I watched 3 seasons when I was stuck at home with COVID. So yeah, Downton Abbey was, and I think they're back on Netflix again. Like they disappeared for a while and now they're back. I don't get it. But yeah, Downton Abbey, I just rewatched the whole thing from start to finish, which I loved. And then a series that is a little bit older, as in I think like a good 10 years old, but I had never watched it. I'm pretty sure it was on Dutch TV, but I tend to not watch a lot of TV, but it's Wallander. And if I'm not mistaken, Wallander is actually a character in a Swedish book series, and it was turned into a British television series in like 2005, something like that, with Kenneth Branagh in the lead. So everybody does speak English, but it's all set in the south of Sweden, in this town where he is a police officer, and he is like a murder investigation. But it's like every episode is like a small movie. It's like an hour and a half for every single episode. So it reminded me a lot of like Inspector Morse, which was something I used to watch when I was a kid with my grandma. So it had that similar vibe. And now because of this TV series, I want to go to Sweden. Because I don't know if you have the same experience, but I have this a lot when I read books or watch TV series that have like certain surroundings that they're set in, and you just want to go there and you just want to see the locations, not necessarily the locations where the series was shot, but just that area. Like, I had never considered the south of Sweden to be so beautiful, and now I'm like, oh, I want to see that for myself. So that's Wallander. And then another TV series that I finally watched was Ozark. My brother gave me this tip a while ago, and then I was like, okay, similarly to Downton Abbey, I just wanted something that wasn't super exciting, but that was a little dark and gloomy and sinister at the same time, and Ozark was just it. So Ozark is about a family in the US. Dad has been into some bad criminal things with his finance firm, and apparently he has been money laundering on the side as like a side gig, and that goes horribly wrong in the first episode, and then the family flees to the Ozarks, and then he needs to set up this money laundering business in this very small town, and how they do that and who is involved. And it was so great. Again, it's like Downton Abbey. It's not a very action-packed kind of thing. There are some action-packed things, but it's much more about character development and how this family goes from wanting to do the right thing to being like the most morally gray characters you have ever come across on TV. And like, not a single person in this series is good. Like, not a single one of them. And it was just so great. The acting in it is marvelous. Some of the best acting ever. Yeah, the Ozark is definitely one of the best things I've watched in a very, very long time. I've gotten all of my friends to watch it. Like, I've been raving about it so much ever since. And then over the summertime, I was very excited that we got a adaptation of The Sandman. Now, I'm not really into comic books, so I never watched the source or read the source material per se. But The Sandman, when that was announced, I was like, yep, it's Neil Gaiman. Enough said. I'm going to watch it because I love me some Neil Gaiman. And I thought it was very well done. It's apparently pretty true to the comics themselves as well. Like, I've watched some things and read some articles where they've compared like certain, what are they called again? Like certain parts of the comics and how it lines up. And some of the frames from the actual series are the frames from the comic book. So that was done very cleverly. Story-wise, I felt it was perhaps a little lackluster. Like, at first, like, I felt the first half of the season felt differently to the second half of the season. So I think they're perhaps just trying to do a little bit too much in one series. But overall, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was very well done, and it's just very Gaiman. It just has all of those like mythologies behind it, and that's also what he does in a lot of his writing, and I've always appreciated that. And it's just, yeah, it was really, really good. And finally, this is a bit of an outlier perhaps, but Cleo, which is a German TV series on Netflix that I watched, and I really, really enjoyed it. It's about a young woman who lives in East Germany right before the wall falls. Like, it's like set in the 80s, and she works for the Stasi, so the secret East German secret police, and she has to infiltrate in the West and then somebody gets murdered, and there's this briefcase that disappears, and in the sort of slipstream of it, she gets captured and she is sent to jail because she is supposedly a danger to the country, whatever. And it's like her own people turning against her. And then after the wall falls, she's released because, she was a political prisoner. And then, of course, she wants to look for revenge, and she starts hunting down and trying to figure out what actually happened with this briefcase and what happened to her and why she was actually put in prison. And she starts to figure it all out together with is he a journalist or a police officer? I don't remember what he exactly does, but he's a bit of a nitwit, and she still has her like Stasi spy sort of thing going on. It was really, really funny, and the best part about it was the music. It was so good at getting the feel of like the late 80s and the early 90s wrapped into this series of like what things looked like, what things sounded like. You could almost smell it. And I thought that that was really well done. It was very sort of fun and quirky. Cleo, the main character, is also a bit quirky herself, but she knows what she wants, and it was just also like kick-ass heroine kind of thing. So I really enjoyed this one. So that's why I wanted to recommend that too. And now before my voice goes, because, you know, I'm still sort of recovering from being ill the week before, like my voice is still a bit raspy, but favorite books of the year. Now, I did manage to read quite a bit again. I was very surprised to see that I did read over 40 books this year. So I'm very happy with how much I actually ended up reading this year. I will do a bit of a wrap up in January to let you know more about all of the books I read, but there weren't a lot of outstanding books for me. There weren't a lot of 5 stars. And so I only have 5 favorite books to tell you about, because these were the ones that stood out to me the most. And we're gonna start with the start of the year, because we started things off on a high note. I've already recommended this book in several videos. T.L. Hochu's The Library of the Dead. Alternate universe, something has happened here, it's set in Edinburgh, and we have a main character, Ropa, who can talk to ghosts. That's all I needed to know, but it just has it has a cool plot. It's definitely adult fantasy, but it's more like urban fantasy. We have a secret society in here as well, so it feels a little bit dark academia, but I think we get more of that in the second book in the series, which I would still like to read as well. This is just good. This is good. It's a bit gruesome. It definitely has a very dark undertone. But yeah, this is a really, really lovely series that I want to read more of for sure. Also at the start of the year, I read Richard Osman's The Thursday Murder Club. Now, when I reviewed this for you, I said I didn't necessarily want to read the rest because as lovely as it is, it's just, you know, easy reads. This is about a group of seniors who have retired and they all live in the same sort of retirement village, and then on Thursdays, they come together and they try to solve unsolved cases together. And yeah, of course, there is a murder that happens and they get involved. That's sort of the premise of the first book. But now my friends have bought me books number 2 and 3 in the series, so I actually can just continue reading the series, and I do like it enough to keep going. This was a 3-star read for me, but it was quite endearing, and I don't mind getting back with these 4 characters and read more about them now that I have the other 2. I was definitely enjoying it enough. I'm currently using it as a palate cleanser after reading one of the other books I will be showing you in a minute. So yeah, The Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman. If you're into British witty humor sort of banter, this is for you. Also at the start of the year, Ben Aronovich came out with the next book in the Peter Grant series. This is Amongst Our Weapons. Now, by now, I've read so many of these books that it all starts to sort of come together a little bit. This is a book series I definitely need to go back to rereading at some point because some of the storylines are starting to blur together. The only thing I remember from this is that it has to do with an underground diamond exchange where someone is shot with a bullet that no one can find. Yeah. So, and this series, in case you don't know, like the overall premise of it is that Peter Grant finds out on his first case as a police constable that he can do magic, and then he is put into this special unit together with his supervisor Nightingale, and they try to solve all the weird shit. That's pretty much what the premise is. And then he needs to learn magic and become better as a practitioner and figure out how that all works. And it's sort of like Harry Potter meets Sherlock Holmes meets a bit of Luther, and we get a lot of like mythology and history of London roped into these books as well. So that's why I always enjoy them. And yeah, this was another good one. I gave it 5 stars. These are very action-packed books. They read like scripts more so than books. And then it was crickets for a very long time until I read this. This is God's Grave from J. Kristoff. Now, this book is the second book in the Nevernight cycle from J. Kristoff, which not a lot of people like, but I ended up enjoying it a lot more. The only issue I had with it was that it was quite repetitive. So there was quite a lot of repetition of certain like themes and phrases that came back in all 3 books, especially because I read book 2 and 3 quite quickly after one another. that got a bit boring quickly. My favorite of the series was the second book for sure, mainly because we get gladiators in this, and we get like gladiator games that our main character Mia is taking part in. She was trained as an assassin in the first book. In the second book, she's still trying to get revenge for her the murder on her parents, and that sort of becomes more of a plot line in the second one. And I just thought that this felt a bit Hunger Gamesy. It definitely had that sort of vibe to it, and I just liked it a lot better. The world is expanded. We get a little bit more background about some of the other characters that we meet in here, and I just really enjoyed that. So this is, if you want to read just one, make it this one. I feel you don't really need the first book to enjoy this one, or the third one. If you just want to read one, make it this one. And finally, at the end of the year, I finally read my first Brandon Sanderson book. This is The Final Empire, which is Mistborn #1. And this is a book that was so satisfying in the end. But as I mentioned in my review, the first 400 pages of this were incredibly tedious. It was repetitive. I felt like it wasn't going anywhere. I felt our main character was downplayed a lot. It just didn't make a lot of sense. And then we got the final 200 pages, and everything came together, but not in a nice, like, wrapping everything up with a bow kind of way, like we see in a lot of YA fantasy, but in a, oh, now everything starts to make sense kind of way. Because then you realize that certain things have been told to you earlier on in the book that you need to know in order to understand the last 200 pages of this book. So the way this splits up for me is the first 2/3 of the book, very character driven, focused on character development, getting to know our characters, who they are, what they stand for, how they feel. And then in the last half of the book, the last third, we get the action. So if there had been more action in the actual first part of the book, I might have liked this even more, but I still gave it 5 stars because I appreciate books that make me want to go back and reread them straight away after I finish them because I want to know how it works. Because now I'm like, if I were to read this again, would I be better at picking up some of the clues that are sprinkled into the story, knowing the way everything is going to play out in the end? So yeah, this is one where it's like, it's very rewarding in the end. So yes, it's 600 plus pages. It's a bigger one, but I loved every minute. In hindsight, I loved every minute of it. And I now see why everything had to happen in order for it to happen. Like, it just makes sense. This is one you need to soldier on with though, but it's very, very rewarding. Those were my 5 favorite books of the year that I read in 2022, and my favorite albums, my favorite TV series, my favorite movie, because there was only one. But yeah, I will be doing a reading wrap up, like going over some stats and show you what I read and whether I read more audio, and then like I'll do that in January. But I just thought I could come on here and chat to you about my favorites because, you know, 2022 isn't quite yet done, and I'm filming this a few days in advance, so who knows how many books I can finish before January 1st. Who knows? So thank you so very much for joining me today. Thank you so very much for joining me. I come on here once a week to chat about books, lifestyle, fashion sort of things. I'm going to try and put some more music and things in here as well because I think that will be fun. So yeah, that's what you can look forward to in 2023. I hope you would like to come back for more, and then I hope to see you in my next video. Take care, everybody. Happy holidays. Happy New Year if you're celebrating. See you next year. Bye-bye.